Hey everybody, my name is Brendan Noble and I'm a young adult author. This week on my Slavic Saturday series where we talk about Slavic history, mythology, gods, deities, creatures, demons, all types of stuff related to my Slavic fantasy series that I'm working on for a book series. And today we'll be talking about Yarilo, a god of a lot of things, including war, agriculture, fertility, spring, a lot of different things. He's a very powerful, very influential, and very important god in Slavic mythology, and I'm really excited to talk about him because he has a lot of dynamic elements. So let's dive in. Jarilo was a incredibly popular god, and you can kind of see that by the vast array of names he has, both spelling and actual pronunciation. Yarilo is the most common name, but he was also known as Jaryło, and it's kind of interesting is how it's spelled differently in every region and the different stories that come with it. I'm often focused on the Polish one, but I'm going to try to bring in as many of the ideas as I can into this because there's a lot of different cultural norms and traditions that came with Yarilo and a lot of the festivals. And he was also important because Yarilo is he's the most important son of Perun, who is the god of thunder and often considered the supreme god in the Slavic mythological pantheon, and Malkosh, who is the great mother and often considered the most important woman in the or goddess in the Slavic pantheon. So he has this important role as the son of them, and his three sisters also play an important role, and his relationships with them play an important role. He is related to Marzana or Morana, who is the Slavic goddess of winter, who we talked about in another post, so I'll link below. Dijavana, who's the Slavic goddess of the hunt and wilds. We also talked about another post. And one we haven't talked about yet, but Ziva or Vesna, who is another spring goddess, also goddess of fire, fertility, a lot of other things. And so this kind of relationship between these four siblings becomes a very important role. But Yarilo is a little different because Yarilo is a sibling, but he really wasn't raised by Perun. And that's because when Yarilo was born, he was kidnapped by Perun's rival Veles, who is the god of the underworld, cattle, and the lowlands. He's not considered evil like Hades or anything like that, but he can be a trickster, and stealing his rival's child was one of those things. So Yarilo was actually raised by Veles in the underworld, and this started a massive war between Perun and Veles. And Yarilo's personality is kind of influenced by this. While his father Perun is a god of justice, Yarilo is a little bit more of a trickster. He often shapeshifts. He can be known as to be a little manipulative, and this comes in a lot later. And he can be kind of compared often to Loki from Norse mythology. Probably not as negatively as the connotation there, but the connection does exist. So Yarilo was known and pictured as a young man with blonde hair. He could be older as well, but often there's this younger feel of him compared to the older gods of Svarog and Perun. And he was pictured with 8 swords, 7 which represent the 7 months he ruled over, and then an 8th one he actually fought with. And then he would have a golden shield, or at least a gold trimmed shield, that would kind of represent his relevance as a war god, especially in defense. While Perun might have been considered more of an aggressive war god, Yarilo was often considered more of a defensive war god. And he was also pictured riding a white horse, which often comes into his role as both, again, a war god, but also a god of fertility, because that represented the young groom, which was a big symbol in Slavic wedding rituals. The white horse would represent the groom for the marriage. And because of this, a lot of aspects of Yarilo, he becomes incredibly relevant. He, especially during what is called the Topiene Marzani festival, or the drowning of Marzana, is the drowning of the winter goddess Marzana, and Yarilo plays an important role of that as a spring god, but also he's kind of the ex-husband of Marzana. We'll go into that story in a little bit. But he plays an important role there with protecting Ziva as the two of them go to kill Marzana until the autumn when she would return. He also had a lot of festivals related to him, which throughout the spring and summer, which were kind of considered a big thing with his role in agriculture. There'd be festivals as well in the fall for his the reaping of what was was planted, and that would bring in honor of Yarilo as the agriculture god. And there was a lot of other festivals, and especially some of the fertility rites and things that were brought in with Yarilo as well, but those often aren't as well documented because, of course, we don't have a lot of primary sources on Slavic mythology. But why does he play such a big role in that Topiani Marzani festival? And that's because part of what we talked about earlier with Jarilo being abducted by Veles, he didn't really know who he was related to, and so when Jarilo returned from Navia, which is the realm of the underworld, he fell in love with the goddess Marzana, who didn't realize at the time was his sister. And then they still got married even when they found that out, but Jarilo ends up being unfaithful, cheating on Marzana, and she gets mad and kills him. And this kind of breaks what Marzana at the time wasn't a winter goddess. She was actually a nature goddess. And this turned her into a winter goddess and broke the unity of nature and started causing the cycles of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And what would happen is Marzana would be killed in the spring and then return in the autumn, and she would rule from autumn until spring when she'd be killed again. And Jarilo would be killed in autumn, and then he would rule from spring to the autumn in the reverse time. And this kind of cycle starts to emerge that becomes a really important role in Slavic mythology, but it also shows how important Jarilo is because he shows the imperfection of the Slavic gods, of his selfishness with how he breaks his loyalty to his wife. And then it causes all the massive problems. And it also shows that he is a really interesting dichotomy where he is supposed to be a major balancing factor as a god of both domestic agriculture and love and also war, but he breaks that balance by being unfaithful and causing a disbalance in the cycle of nature. And so that kind of interesting dichotomy becomes a really fun part in terms of Jarilo's character. And it's one that in my book series I'm really excited and I do really love writing because, you know, what's more fun than showing how a lover's quarrel broke the world and then how people have to deal with that and try to fix it. So he's going to play an important role in the book as well as how Marzana does. And I'm really excited to be able to share that with you guys soon. I'm editing it still and it'll take some time, but it's going well. So that's all I have for you guys this week on the Slavic Saturday series. I hope you guys enjoy the videos. If you do, please remember to like and subscribe down below. I also have a playlist of other videos I have put together on the topics. And also, if you prefer these in written form, if you look in the comments below, I have blog posts related to these that can be read instead of watched, depending on what your preference is. So I hope you guys have another good week, and I'll see y'all next Saturday.